Do you love the Tabernacle Choir? This year, the choir's music is everywhere you are. Listen to your favorite choir songs and music and the spoken word anytime you want on Alexa by simply enabling the skill.
Alexa, play music in the spoken word.
Now playing music in the spoken word.
You can also download the Tabernacle Choir app, subscribe to the choir on YouTube, listen on Spotify, and have access to all their wonderful music. Happy listening.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Tuesday morning. The countdown to football is on. Utes, Cougars, NFL, high school. It's all on the horizon. The high school kids kick off Thursday and Friday this week. You can see tons of games at KSLSports.com. We're going to start you off this morning with the NFL. PK and I talking with Jason Cole, longtime NFL reporter. Here's our conversation. The offseason has been dominated by the Rams. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl, but the Rams won the offseason. Do you have the Rams as the clear favorite going into this year? Is it Seattle? Is it somebody else?
It's a good question. And I would say that the Rams are the most desperate team because they know this is Stafford's last year, probably McVay's last year. So they're all in on this one. And I think that they get a sense with Donald that, they got one more shot with Donald. So I would give them that nod based on desperation. And I would also go that, they have the best quarterback on that side. Now, I know that, Seattle won the title, but I just still don't believe in Sam Darnold. And the defense was great, but I just get the feeling that they're repeating what they did with Russell Wilson, which most fans would take what they did with Russell Wilson. That'd be great. But I don't see them winning a second title with this iteration. You got to have a better quarterback than that.
Speaking of quarterbacks, where do you stand on rookies playing the first year? Obviously with the Raiders, Mendoza, and they got Cousins over there. So some have had success, some haven't. What do you think?
I think it sort of depends on do you actually have a plan on when you're going to get him on the field? So with Mendoza, I sort of understand not starting him right away, but when do you plan to get him on the field? Because it should be sooner than later with a guy who's this mature, this knowledgeable, this much experience, having played essentially 5 years of college football, being a slightly older guy. So it slightly surprises me, but both sides have worked. I mean, look, Mahomes sat for a year, right? Yeah. Didn't play the first year. I mean, he's great. Carson Palmer had a great career. He didn't play his first year. So there's something to it. There's also, here's a really important part. Can you actually protect your guy? And again, there are some guys out there, and I know Pete Priskin used to argue about this all the time. He'd say, guys are experienced in college. They know what they're doing. Just get them out there and play. And he really believes in that. Well, okay, what happened with David Carr? Yeah. You got him out there. You couldn't protect him. He became a shell of himself, and that's the number one overall pick that, had a very disappointing career. So I'm iffy on it. I think I leave it to the judgment of football people. But I also always ask, what is the plan here to get him on the field? And it should be sooner than later in this era, but maybe not right away.
In the NFL, we see teams go from worst to first and put together tremendous turnarounds. The Bears went from fourth in the NFC North to first. They're plus 5 or 6 wins last year. That was great. Now, there are a couple teams who went from third place to first. Jacksonville was like plus 9 wins. New England improved 10 wins over the prior year. Who do you think will do it this year? Who will be that team? And if I said it's going to be the Giants, do you think I'm crazy?
No, the Giants can't, because I think the division is weak, right? So if you don't believe in the division, if you don't think Philly is going to be that good this year, and I do have some real serious doubts about Philly. The makeup of that team is questionable. If you don't believe in the Cowboys, which I don't, I mean, I just think they're frauds. If you don't really truly believe in Washington, but I would say you're picking a couple of good candidates, or we have sort of arrived at it, between the Giants and Washington. That could really step up. Now, Washington wasn't that bad last year. The Giants were, so there's more room for improvement there. The Dolphins aren't going anywhere. Minnesota, I'm kind of curious about. Can they do sort of do a little bit of a rebound? They're getting Kyler Murray. Again, I don't believe in Kyler Murray long term. I don't think that's a solution. But you kind of wonder, is that a team that can rebound a little bit? The Raiders would be fun to pick, but they're not going anywhere in that division. I mean, it's just that division is too top heavy. And obviously, like a team, you would say a team like Arizona, they're not going anywhere, despite the fact that they got a good rookie running back who can sort of stabilize that team. But that division is just too top heavy. So I think you settled in on the Giants is a pretty good target.
Now, you mentioned that Cardinals running back, and what was he taking, third? And I think the year before, Genti out of Boise State was a high pick. It seemed like for a while there that the NFL teams had shied away from running backs that high, and now we've got two pretty high back-to-back, obviously. Is that something that you see going forward, or that we can find one later?
I think that most of the time you're still going to try and find one later, because the value there's not a lot of market value in taking a running back in the first round unless you know you're going to absolutely play him right away and you have no answer there, right? Or if you happen to think that he's truly special. And I think the case of Genti, I think he's going to be special, despite the fact that he struggled a little bit his rookie year. I think Love, good player. I'm not sure he's a great player. I think that this was a really weak draft, and that's why that forced the running back up. But I will say, like in an overall sense, football goes through these iterations. Everybody plays wide open for a while, so what do defenses have to do? Defenses have to get quick and small and be able to cover because everybody goes wide open. Well, as soon as the defenses are primarily quick and small and fast to cover wide open football, it's like, okay, now let's go back to playing power football, right? And let's play that iteration of football. And now if you're going to play power football, you better get an explosive running back who can take advantage of that. So this is sort of the ebbs and flows of how football works. And I don't think that it ever really lasts anymore because people change their style of play so quickly because they're capable of changing their style of play so quickly. And the one thing I'll also add on top of this, and I really worry about this for football generally, in the case of the Texas lineman going back to college after trying to make it in the NFL, like there's going to be a lot of old guys playing offensive line in the college level until they figure out a way to change these rules, right? Well, if there's a bunch of old guys playing college football who can't make it in the NFL, who are the young guys who are going to develop in college who can play in the NFL, right? So the NFL pretty soon is going to have some serious offensive line issues, not having good enough players there. And I mean, we're talking by soon, I mean within the next 3 to 4 years, where you just don't have guys who can hold up. And it's going to change the way that you play football in very significant ways. So the NFL better be looking at how do they develop offensive linemen, how do they get some young guys out there and give them actual experience and teach them what they're doing. Until college football changes what their makeup is. And I'm not sure that college football has a real hope on how to change that unless the politicians get involved, and that's a mess.
Kansas City Chiefs were the story for years. They either won the title or you had to beat them to win the title. They went 6-11 last year. Now, part of that is obviously Mahomes with the knee injury, and they lost their last 6 games. But nonetheless, they were 6-5 after 11 games. They weren't exactly dominating. How far back do they come? I can see them being in the mix for the playoffs. I can't see them being in the mix for the Super Bowl. It feels like they've missed on too many draft picks, and Mahomes is too expensive. Do you buy any or all of that?
Oh, I don't believe it. Look, I don't believe the expense part. That's a really convenient argument for people. But even if you're the cap is $300 million, even if you're paying your quarterback $55 or $60 million, that leaves $240 million for the rest of your roster, right? And rookie salaries are pretty stagnant, so your rookies are only making about total about $25-30 million. Your minimum salary guys are stagnant too. So there's a ton of cash left to pay guys. What the Chiefs have missed on is they haven't gotten any wide receivers. Xavier Worthy, has not panned out. He's not become what they want him to do. They want him to become another version of Tyreek Hill, and he's just not a very good football player. He doesn't know how to get open. He doesn't know how to go get the ball. He's not a very tough kid. Got Rashee Rice, who doesn't put a priority on playing football, and he's a good, solid football player. I think they overvalue him because they're so desperate. He's going to be a really good number 3, but he's not a great player, and he's not a great player who puts his total emphasis and total love into football. He's distracted by too many other stupid things. So who's the wide receiver on that team that you trust right now? I mean, Travis Kelce, the tight end, still a nice player, but, he's showing his age. So they need more help from Mahomes. And I know they, going out and getting Kenneth Walker gives them a little bit more balance to their offense and gives them a guy who's a little more explosive than Pacheco. But I think he's only a little bit more explosive than Pacheco, not a lot. And so I just don't like where they're going offensively. I think that, if they get their injuries under control and everything else, they're back to a 9-10, maybe an 11-win team, and in the playoffs the way you talk about it. But they don't have guys who scare the defense, other than Mahomes. And Mahomes dummied it 2 years ago, dummied it up really well until they got to the Super Bowl and they got overwhelmed by the Eagles. So I'm just really wondering, as the Hunt family sort of said, okay, we won our titles, we had a nice run, we're now just going to cash out and take the money and just have Mahomes and Reed, and they'll make it work somehow, and we'll be okay.
Preseason football is upon us. We've had one game, and now it really ramps up here coming up in a few days. What's your assessment on if young guys, particularly rookies, shine? How much stock do you put into that?
Look, these are times when only the rookies play. And when only rookies play, you see really vanilla football. You don't see exotic coverages. You don't see a lot of change. I don't put a lot of stock, not just in preseason, but I don't put a lot of stock in the first 2 or 3 regular season games. Not that they don't count. Don't get me wrong. But your veterans aren't playing until then. So they're not ready to hit. They're not ready to tackle. So you see a lot of really bad football in the first 2 or 3 weeks. And I don't think teams round into shape until you get to week 4, 5, 6. And then you have a real idea of what teams are like. So, it's nice to see football, and obviously it has some meaning for the young guys who are playing. And coaches are measuring it, and they want to see what the mistakes are. They want to see who knows how to handle it. Carson Beck is doing a nice job in that first game, and you'd like to think maybe the Cardinals have something to work with, and that was nice. But we're talking the level of football they're playing right now for the next few weeks is not even close to what it's going to be by week 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I asked that because my sister has season tickets for the Cardinals, and she wants to know how good Carson Beck's going to be.
Well, you saw about from Carson Beck in college is a lot more indicative of what he really is, which is a nice, solid college quarterback who made some critical mistakes in key games. And until he does that in regular season games, until you see him change that, I don't believe I don't believe the Hall of Fame game is any real strong indicator of what he is in his career. Like, I just don't believe that he's like a full-time starter. But hey, prove me wrong, man. Like, that's the beauty of the game. Like, go become a star. Like, this is awesome. But football has just preseason football is not what it used to be, and it's going to continue to change as we get towards 18 games, and coaches become even more protective of their players and don't want to play them very much in preseason or even in training camp because they got so many games to worry about.
Look at the Broncos as 20-1 favorites to win the Super Bowl. That's a team that was in the AFC title game but didn't have their quarterback as Bo Nix was hurt. Shouldn't they have better odds there? How do you think they stack up at the top of the AFC?
You would say that, except it's a year where, Baltimore dipped and wasn't very good either. Cincinnati didn't get their defense together, dipped. Like, did they take advantage? Kansas City, we just talked about what happened with Kansas City. Was Denver really good, or did they take advantage of a year? And you can say this about New England, too. Did they take advantage of a year when everybody was down? And I think that's the theory on Denver. What I tend to believe is they're a very well-coached team with high demands from a great leader who knows how to max out the most from his talent, who did cover up some things with their defense early on. The defense got a little weaker as time went on, but it's still pretty good. And the wild card is Bo Nix. The wild card is where is the ceiling, where is the floor for Bo Nix? And he's one of those guys where it's like, you don't know, like, can Sean Payton coax him into being a star and to becoming more consistent and becoming a guy who can really attack? Because you don't see that all the time from Bo Nix, but you do see some highlight reel stuff at the end of games, right? Can he become more consistent? Or is it the Bo Nix where in college, between his two stops in college, there were times where he was cratering, right? And looked like he might fall through the floor. He didn't, and he got through it, but he's one of those guys who's like super erratic. Right? And I think I'm belaboring my point here. And I just don't trust him yet. But I'm still curious about him. I'm still excited to see what he's going to be. And if it's the upshot, then Denver's a serious contender. If it's the downshot, then, or he just continues to kind of muddle along, then they'll muddle along. So this is going to be carried largely on the future of Bo Nix.
There's Jason Cole. When we come back, we're going to switch to the Utes and the Cougars. Stay with us right here on The Zone.
Evening. Buyer's remorse. Buy a new car? I'll be moving in. Let's get started.
Sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I bought it from Carvana.
You what?
Yeah, great price. I even have 7 days to love it or return it.
So there's no...
No buyer's remorse. More like buyer's rejoice.
I guess I'll let myself out. Congratulations. I mean it.
Buyer's rejoice. Buy your car today on Carvana. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Yesterday, we were joined by Steve Bartle, who covers the Utes for KSL. Here's our conversation with Steve.
So the big thing is, the 5 offensive linemen, and we know that several of them got a lot of on-the-field experience last year because the Utes had a lot of good games in which they could rotate guys in. Now, it wasn't with the games on the line and all that stuff, although they did play in the bowl game. So what do you take from that as far as a bunch of guys who got dozens of snaps last year, what weren't starters? How does that translate into when they've got to line up when the game is on the line and you're going against the first-team defense?
Yeah, that is the big question mark for Utah is that offensive line. And Coach Gross shared with us at his immediate availability last week, is that he feels he's got 10 offensive linemen that they feel comfortable with that could play, and so, while that's encouraging on one hand, that they feel they have 10 guys, they're 10 deep, it's about finding that best combination of 5. And, with the guys that played last year, there were a couple of guys, Soloto Amoyai and Keith Olson, that played, a combined 800-ish snaps last year because they were, utilized as 6th and 7th offensive linemen. And Utah liked that personnel package last year, used it quite a bit. And, those 2 guys are going to be key figures in sort of setting the examples and how things are done. And so I think it's valuable that obviously that Utah was able to rotate those 2 guys in pretty consistently each and every week. And then, as you mentioned, there were a couple other guys, Zeraway Williams and Alex Harrison, where those guys, got some mop-up duty. And Utah had a lot of mop-up duty last year. And so those guys, also gained some valuable experience getting on the field, in a game day atmosphere at Rice-Eccles Stadium or on the road. And yeah, it's not the same as, being in the heat of the competition, in those first half and third quarters, but still to get on the field, to kind of get into a certain sort of get to a level of comfort, performing on the field under the bright lights, I think is valuable. But, clearly there's still significant questions around the offensive line, and, the experience that they gained last year is still fairly minimal. So I think that is the big question mark for Utah in fall camp, is finding the starting 5, finding 3 or 4 players that you feel can, round out your depth, potentially create even a rotation, and move forward from there. In terms of, the makeup and maybe some of the strengths of this group, I feel like Utah has some pretty solid athletes up front where, pass protection might be the strength of this group. My question is, how physical are they going to be, in the run game? That's what Utah's offensive line was last year. They were, clean, assignment sound, and physical, overwhelmingly physical, outside of a couple matchups. And so, that's going to be the big question mark. They've got to establish a certain level of physicality, and that's going to be the key over the next couple of weeks now that the pads are on.
When Kevin McGivern, offensive coordinator, talks about Devin Dampier and finding out what's best for his skill set, what is he going to find out and what might be different than last year? Because it looked like last year's offense was pretty well set up for his skill set, although they were running the ball behind a dominant offensive line, so that makes things pretty simple and straightforward. But maybe Morgan has appetite for more risk than Kyle did. So what's this going to end up looking like?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of fascinated to see what it actually looks like. We got to see a lot of the offense in spring ball. We got to watch a lot of practice, and it was probably due to the fact that it was spring ball, but we saw a lot of passing game. We saw, we didn't see as much run game as we saw the year previous in spring ball, and that probably is due to wanting to limit the level of physicality that you're playing with in spring, but also I think it is kind of indicative of where they want to take this offense. And so with Dampier, he came from New Mexico, and the big question was, how is he going to improve his touchdown to interception ratio? And lo and behold, he comes to Utah where there was a lot of talent, up front at the skill positions, maybe not the elite talent, but certainly more than he had at New Mexico, and at least at the skill positions. And, for Dampier, it was about becoming more of an efficient decision maker, taking care of the ball. And I think that was something that he really embraced in coming to Utah. Well, now it's, the offensive line has moved on. I think now it's about, kind of, going back to the closet and finding that Superman cape, playing the way that he did at New Mexico. It's about now marrying that efficiency, that decision-making that he developed last year, while also embracing a little bit more of that, playmaker at quarterback like he was. And he was still really good last year, doing it as a dual-threat quarterback, finishing with over 3,300 yards and 34 touchdowns. But he's going to have to likely create a little bit more than he did last year. He's not going to be able to sit in the pocket for 5-6 seconds, without pressure bearing down on him. There's likely going to be pressure in his face consistently, and he's got to overcome it. And for Dampier, he understood what this season is going to ask of him. He's trimmed up about 10, 15 pounds, so he's slimmer and back to the playing weight he was at New Mexico. He was playing last year at around 220, and I think that's going to kind of give him that. He was elusive last year, but I think just kind of getting back to what we saw at New Mexico a little bit more. And then again, it's about the decision making and embracing some of this passing game stuff. And I think that's where, Dampier's, we can only assess like what we've seen, what we've heard throughout the offseason. But it seems like Dev took the offseason really seriously in working on, working within the playbook, getting out to the, setting up player run practices and working quite a bit with his receivers to develop that chemistry. So, he did all that he could this offseason to put himself in position to take that next step as a quarterback. And that's going to be, we'll see what that actually looks like this season once they get under the bright lights and they kick off and all that. But that's sort of where they want to take this, is they want the ball in Dampier's hands. They want him to be that, that playmaker, that efficient decision maker, and just be that quarterback that they need to help them contend in the Big 12.
Compared to last season, how do you think the new offensive regime is going to utilize Ficklin?
That's a great question, PK. I think Bird, he's going to be kind of a key piece to the offense. He accounted for 13 touchdowns last year, and not all of those were in mop-up duty. I think only a handful of those, came, late in the fourth quarter. He played a lot last year in the thick of the competition coming in for Dampier, and obviously, Dampier's health kind of contributed to that and allowed Ficklin to get on the field as a quarterback. I think this year, you could see his role expand to becoming more of a versatile weapon while still, incorporating him as a passer. And I think it's going to be interesting to see, how exactly they utilize him. But I do think they want to get him on the field and do some different things. I think, they want to involve him in the passing game as a receiver. They want to, get him in the backfield and potentially hand the ball off. He is just a dynamic athlete that I think Utah is going to explore, a lot of different ways that they can get him on the field, with Dampier still on the field as well. So, he's going to be, a pretty significant piece to the offense this season, which, too, I think is still geared around developing him as a quarterback because, he is the guy that is expected to take over once Dampier's career comes to an end.
Parker's talked about being not just 1,000-yard rusher, but what about 1,200? And there's people wondering about 1,500 if he averages 100 a game. Do you think there are that many carries in it in the run game this year for him?
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting with Parker and what this run game looks like. Like, I do think he is set up to be the undisputed, top running back. I don't think we're going to see a situation like we saw last year with N'Keary Rogers, carrying the bulk of the load, early on in the season. This is going to be Parker's, backfield from the beginning of the season on. And, what he showed, over those last couple of weeks was, truly dynamic playmaking. And I think there's a lot of, excitement around what he can become in this offense. I don't think Utah is as concerned with getting him to 1,000 or 1,200. And frankly, it's a goal that Parker has, but he's also acknowledged that he's more focused on the team aspect. And so I think 1,200 yards, yeah, it's a bit greedy. It's a bit high. But I think 1,200 total yards, I think that's going to be really doable for him, because it sounds like McGibbon wants to incorporate the running backs in the passing game quite a bit more than what we saw last year under Jason Beck. And I think that's an area of the game where Parker can actually be, really dynamic and expand his skill set and production. So, I think he's certainly capable of getting to 1,200 rushing yards. He has the athleticism. He has the big playability. But I think to your point, DJ, is what is that workload going to be like when you have a dual threat quarterback like Dampier and like Bird Ficklin? They're going to account for a lot of carries. Can he get to 150, 160, 170, 80 carries? If he can get to 170, 1,000 yards is definitely going to be within reach. It's just, does he get there? That's going to be a big question. And I think with him starting the season as the unquestioned RB1 and the guy that they want to feature, I think it's certainly, doable to get to that number. But the presence of two dual threat quarterbacks that Utah also wants to involve in the run game in Dampier and Ficklin, that's also going to take some carries away from him. So I think 1,200 yards is definitely doable for him. Total yards, rushing is going to be a little greedy.
That's what I'm interested to see with Dampier. We saw at New Mexico, he was lighting it up big time. And, he had a very good season at Utah Shore, for no doubt about it. But we're expecting more. But at the same time, Scally has kind of dropped, I don't know if they're hints, but just inclinations of getting the ball downfield much more than they have been in the past. He's willing to not experiment, but see how it goes. So I'm wondering how Dampier is going to balance that, because of the fact that I always thought this team with him at quarterback, when it's third and short, is virtually unstoppable, because it's almost impossible for him to not get 2 or 3 yards virtually anytime he wants. At the same time, they want to get the ball downfield. How do you think all that's going to balance out?
Yeah, I think that's going to rest on the shoulders of Dampier to become a sound decision maker in those moments. That is going to be the big key for him. When we were talking about things that have to happen this season for Utah, one of the key factors for me was Dampier, increasing the rate at which he's making decisions. He's got to make quick decisions to get the ball out of his hands, first and foremost, to protect the offensive line. But then, too, deepening his understanding of when to take those shots and when not to, when to tuck it. That's going to be, a big determining factor on, one, how explosive this offense is, but also how efficient it is. That's got to be on Dampier to really make it a point of emphasis to improve his decision making. They've upgraded that wide receiver room where they now have, players in that room that can threaten, the intermediate and deeper areas of the field way more consistently than they could last year. I think there was a ceiling on the passing game on how efficient down the field they could be. They just didn't have the guys that could attack and get deeper down the field consistently. Now with Braden Pagan, with Kyrie Scholes and Ricky Johnson added to, a Larry Simmons and some of these other players, they now have players that raise the ceiling a little bit on, how consistently they can push the ball down the field. There's obviously a lot of criticism of Dampier and his arm strength and, his ability to push the ball down the field, but he was incredibly efficient and accurate in the 10 to 19-yard range. And, now you're going to have receivers that can access those areas of the field much more frequently, much more consistently, and that's going to help Dampier push the ball down the field a little bit more, even just pushing it, from 9 yards to 12 yards in terms of the average depth of target. Now you're pushing it 15, 16 yards down the field more consistently, which is just going to expand the passing game. So I feel like that's where Dampier has to develop is, one, his decision-making, and then his ability and chemistry with those receivers, in the intermediate areas of the field.
Well, we just spent an entire segment talking about the offense. Huh? How about that? Not a defensive question in there. That was pretty solid work by us, don't you think?
I think it's what everybody's curious about. Obviously with Colton Swan taking over, there's some intrigue there, but I think everybody wants to see this offense because it has been a lot of receiver talk, and Scally hasn't been shy to talk about it. It's what the people want to hear, DJ.
Exactly.
I agree.
And that's why we did it. Steve, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We'll have you back to talk defense later, but that's just what we say before we talk offense again for an entire segment.
Amen. Appreciate you guys.
All right, there's Steve Bartle. When we come back, we're going up on the hill, and we're going down to Provo to talk to Utes and Cougars, including Kelly Poppinga, the defensive coordinator at BYU, and Luther Elliss, coaching the D-line at Utah. Stay with us.
Best thing that's ever happened to you financially. Go.
Easy. Sold my car on Carvana. Amazing offer.
Really? I hit 200 on a scratcher.
Did the scratcher come to your house and hand you a check?
No.
How many scratchers did you hit to get that? I hit a button on Carvana.com once.
Okay, that's fair.
It's like the lottery, except you always win.
Not like the lottery at all, actually.
Exactly. Inexplicably good. Offers worth bragging about. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Luther Elliss has been on the coaching staff. Excellent defensive lineman at the University of Utah. As a player, long NFL career, now back at the U coaching. Here's Luther meeting with the media.
I kind of want to ask you a little bit about Morgan.
Love him.
You've seen his evolution from defensive coordinator to now head coach. I guess just what is it like, or what has it been like behind the scenes just to kind of see him rise into this role that he's currently in now?
Yeah, it's been, I think this has been 20 years or however long he's been here in the making and in the coming, right? Just he's gotten to see great coaching. He's got to be around great coaching and just experience from a player to a coach to like a GA assistant, all those things. He's kind of taken it all in. He's kind of done the whole thing, whole gamut to really take in what it would mean someday to be a head coach. And in my opinion, he's done a great job of just taking the bits and pieces that he would want to do and to build the team that he sees to be a championship team. And that's what RSNB is. It's his culture. It's what he's seen over the years and how he saw success, and that's what's being implemented. So excited for him and what we're doing here, and excited that he's our chief. He's taking us where we're going to go, and really excited to see his vision lived out.
Multiple guys on this defensive line have talked just about the chip on the shoulder of heading into the season after everything that went down last year. How have you seen the guys in your room, attack things maybe in the off season and even in these first couple of days of camp?
Yeah, I think off season, the strength coaches did an excellent job in helping them to get on the mass, to get bigger, get stronger, but not lose speed or quickness. And it's translating to the field currently right now. And I think that makes the kids excited and about what they've done. And again, it's not just the strength room, it's nutrition. It's everything that we have going on here. The people we have here are experts, and they're doing an excellent job with our guys and helping them to prepare and become their best. But I think for us as kids, they see that, and now I have other tools, quote unquote, right? A little added weight and things that I can play better. I can do things that maybe I couldn't do in the past because I wasn't strong enough or I wasn't quick enough, and now they are. And so, right now, even the first couple of days, still a little experimentation because you got to get used to that new weight and playing football. I tell people this all the time, like you can condition all you want, all these, do all sorts of drills and everything, is still not football conditioning. Just because for us, it's like wrestling. We're wrestling a 300-pound guy, and then I'm told to turn and sprint and then come back and do it again, right? It's hard to train and quite equip everybody for that, but the guys are taking what they've built and now they're using it to become better. And also it's competition, right? The guys in my room, there's no starters right now. It's just everybody's fighting to do that, and they're young, they're hungry, and I love their attitude.
How are your transfers coming along here to start fall camp?
They're doing an excellent job. They've bought into our culture and who we are and what we do. They understand the importance of that and living that, and they've stepped in and done an excellent job. Talent-wise, they're right there. They're all competing to play and or start. So it's been great to have Jamal and Lucas and Jai and these guys come in and are really going to help us this year.
Coach, Carson Kaufusi has received a lot of praise for his leadership. Just what's allowed him to take on that role at such a young age in his career?
I think one is who he is. Right, that's how he identifies himself, sees himself as that, and he's living it out now, and he has permission to do that. Not that he didn't have it right away. It's just I think everybody kind of wants to earn their stripes first, right? I don't want to come in talking a lot. I want to come and show you what I can do, perform like I should, and then I've kind of earned the right to speak, and he's for sure really earned that right to speak, and I think the guys respect him because of that. And honestly, he's a large presence, right? He's 6'6", 7, 8, whatever he is, 300 plus pounds, and he's a deer, right? It's just amazing what he can do. So when you command that respect, when you walk into the room, I think guys naturally look up to you as a leader, and he's being able to voice that.
All right, there's Utah's Luther Elliss. Now let's switch to Provo and hear from defensive coordinator Kelly Poppinga.
Kelly, what's your rotation look like on the defensive line? Do you still plan on doing you guys have been rotating quite a bit there?
We got a lot of guys that I think are ready to play. Keanu and Bodie and Vil, Anisi, who else? Justin Kirtland. I think there's some younger guys too as well. That are coming along. So I feel like we're good 6 or 7 deep at that spot right now, where we can be pretty stout but pretty athletic at the same time.
What sort of things do you think that they're going to be good at this year that maybe you've been working on over the summer?
Yeah, I think just a continuing progression of just being, stout in the run game. I think that everybody's always working on that. But I think we're getting more athletic, more quick. I think Bodie and Vil, with the experience they got a year ago, I think they're going to bring another level of experience, but then also quickness and athleticism. But I think we should be super big and physical, and hopefully on the line of scrimmage, so we can do some other stuff too as well.
What are the advantages you see in having that kind of depth on the defensive line?
Yeah, just the things that I said before, being able to own the line of scrimmage, and some of these games get long, right? So we got to be able to rotate, especially early in the season when it's hot, and we're trying to get acclimated to that stuff. But I feel like the depth, not just the defensive line, but the outside backers, the inside backers, our whole front seven, I feel very confident with the 2 to 3 deep in that.
How are you feeling about your linebacking core? How's Cade integrated in?
Yeah, great. Cade's fit in well. I feel really good about them. We got 6 guys that have started games for us before, so to be able to get all those guys on the field and keep all those guys happy, that's going to be a challenge. They're all playing really well right now. It's super competitive. But yeah, I feel like we got 6 guys that I could put in at any time and know that they're going to go in there and do their job.
Where's the defense at right now as compared to maybe a year ago?
I would like to say we're further ahead. I mean, we've been in the scheme now for 4 years, so there's been additions to some stuff that we're doing. Some of that stuff's integrated really well, but a lot of that stuff we installed in the spring, we installed in the summer, and now doing it again. But for the most part, I mean, yeah, this defense, the terminology of it, the schematics of it, the base of that stuff they've known for a long time. So I think hopefully we're playing faster, hopefully we're playing more physical. I'd have to go back and watch film from last year, but I feel I'm pleased, and I know the other coaches are very pleased where we are after practice 5.
How much of a numbers guy are you in terms of setting goals and trying to reach those?
I'm a big numbers guy, big stats guy. We do a lot of stuff goal-wise that way, but also statistically based upon like our self-scout. If certain calls aren't reaching an efficiency to the percentage that we like, then those calls probably go away and we try something else.
What are a couple of numbers that you're going to be paying special attention to?
I always pay attention. To me, it always starts with the run game and being able to hold that number under 3 yards or less. So if a call is not holding 3 yards or less in the run game, there's something either we got to fix or something we got to get rid of. And then, third downs, 33% or less in conversion rate for the offense. We want to make sure, and that's right where we were at a year ago. So we just were at our goal a year ago at that. And then in the red zone, we got to be really good in the red zone, and we want 45% or less touchdowns. So if we hold them to a field goal, we feel like we win in that situation. We get a turnover, obviously we win, but we don't want them, once they get inside the 20, we want to hold them out. So those are, I would say, 3 probably the main goals that we're trying to reach as a defense.
What's been like in safety? You don't have Falatau right now. You also don't have Tanner Wall. Obviously, he's graduated. What are guys like Raider and them doing?
Yeah, Raider looks great. Tommy looks great. Cannon has been a guy that's emerged as well. I know I'm forgetting somebody right now. There's somebody else. Kalama's look good. There's somebody else too. Okay. I'm missing. But anyway, I think of the guys that we have out there, I think we have 6 guys that are capable of starting for us, and that's without Falatau. So just like I can't speak enough of our depth. Now we just got to continue to develop. And, some of these guys are looking great in practice, but I'm practice rep compared to a game rep is completely different, right? So just being able to get, hopefully early in the season, get some game reps with some of these guys so that we can continue to build their confidence and that game experience as the season goes on.
Has the timeline changed on Faletau at all?
No, I think we're right on schedule, and I think, I think he'll be back sooner than everybody thinks.
Can you draw any comparison to maybe, let's go deep into your tenure at Virginia, Power Conference defense, what that looks like on a day-to-day basis to where BYU is right now that you're a few years in?
Yeah, I think, probably in our second or third year at Virginia was our best defense there. And I think we're right there. You know, the strength that we have, the size that we have, the speed that we have. I think as a team, I'm not talking just defensively, as a team, this is as fast as a BYU team as I've seen. And that's losing some of our faster guys from a year ago. So it's a fast team. I think we're physical. I think we have the makings to be a very good team. We just got a lot of time to continue to build and see where we can take this thing. Hunk Riddle, right?
Hey, man, I was just going to ask you a question. Pads are on now. Guys are starting to get a little competitive. Looked like there could have been a coach saying, hey, keep them up.
Yeah.
What happened there on the sideline?
Yeah, so there's, every practice has its rules of engagement, and today was thud tempo, and so the rules of engagement are if you can see their eyes, we thud them up and we tackle and we wrap them up. If you're coming at an angle, you should be tagging off, and that's what happened there at the end of practice is we should have tagged up instead of pushing somebody in the back, and we're just trying to keep guys healthy as best as we can, and so, somebody crossed the line, and that was not good, so he's held accountable for that.
In what ways have some of your new position coaches helped the overall defense?
Yeah, I think Demaro and Lewis have brought great just new insights on how to do different things and coverages that maybe we haven't done here in the past and really haven't done in this coaching tree. And so there's been some things out of there, and then some stuff, like I've told everybody, there's some stuff that I've done with Bronco as well. So being able to just use all that knowledge that we've all had from all the different places that we've been, and then be able to take what we think as a staff is the best thing for this place, for this team at this time. But those guys have brought great insight in that. And then Chad Kahaha, just with his edge play and his detail there, I just think, we have a great group of edge coaches with him and Coach Sione and Coach Anderson, and then myself that's coached that. I think we have 4 or 5 guys that have coached that at a high level, and so I think that defensive front's getting coached very well right now.
There's Kelly Poppinga. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
Best thing that's ever happened to you financially. Go.
Easy. Sold my car on Carvana. Amazing offer.
Really? I hit 200 on the scratcher.
Did the scratcher come to your house and hand you a check?
No.
How many scratchers did you hit to get that? I hit a button on Carvana.com once.
Okay, that's fair.
It's like the lottery, except you always win.
Not like the lottery at all, actually.
Exactly. Inexplicably good. Offers worth bragging about. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.